welcome back to my channel. Today is another Mental Health Mondays, and today I am joined by my good friend Joe to talk about mental health and what life is like living with anxiety and depression. So we chatted over Zoom, so I'm going to enter that footage now, and I really hope you enjoy this one. Don't forget to subscribe. Mental Health Mondays will be coming every second Monday, and I've already got some amazing guests lined up. Welcome to the channel, Joe. Thank you so much for giving up your time today. Joe has decided to join us today to talk about mental health from a male perspective, which obviously is great for the viewers because I'm a female, so I can only talk from my own experiences. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Joe. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do for a living, and I'll open it over to you.
Thanks. Well, my name is Joe. I'm 29. I'm a production assistant at a small production company and pretty much live and breathe film, music, writing. Those would be my favorite things, and sort of what I like to make a career out of. And I live in London, and I think those are pretty much the bullet points about me.
Okay. So as you know, the aim of these kind of chats on my channel are to kind of enlighten people about mental health awareness and also what life is like living with a mental health condition on a day-to-day basis. So when did you first start to notice that you had kind of mental health related symptoms? What were your symptoms?
Well, I'd always been very kind of socially awkward. Um, and when there were a couple of incidences when I was about 12 where I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was self-harming as a way of coping with situations I couldn't handle.
Mm.
Um, and that kind of was put to bed until I was about 17, and then it really came into its own there. And I think that's probably a bit of a teenage hormonal
Yeah.
boost to the situation. And there was just, I think what I was doing was just a lot of very kind of reckless drinking,
Mm.
um, not really communicating properly with how I was feeling. And I think I developed quite a sort of hopeless outcome
Mm.
for my future and the future on the whole. And there was just one particular incident where I had self-harmed by just, cutting my arms quite a lot. And my sister noticed this and, sort of brought me out of my shell. And then so I was put on medication and did a round of CBT.
Mhm.
And so that was sort of the first big, wake up call, so to speak, about, that this is a thing. This isn't just a phase.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can completely relate. Obviously I've battled with self-harm, and it is like you say, it's that sense of control, isn't it? You can't control what's going on around you, and you're in pain from the stuff going on around you. So you almost take control of that pain. And the excessive drinking as well, and the not communicating. It's amazing how this illness can isolate you so much. All you want is other people, but you're too scared to let it all out. It's crazy, really.
Exactly. And also coupled with, because I think I've always had quite low self-esteem as well. So I mean, whenever there are future episodes of self-harming, it was also kind of to do with the fact that there was some part of me that felt I deserved it through
Mm.
kind of, low self-esteem and, not being able to control the situation, but also resenting my input to social situations or overthinking, catastrophizing my own place in the world and my behavior that, was completely unwarranted.
Yeah.
And as I'm a songwriter, there was a lyric that I wrote that's scared to death that people will remember as if they dwell on shit from last December. Like the idea that no one is thinking about this as much as you are, but
No.
still it would not come out of my head, and I felt like I needed to suffer for it.
Yeah. No, I completely get that. So in terms of a condition, do you have like have you where do you kind of put yourself? Is it depression, anxiety, somewhere else?
It's depression and anxiety, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, so samesies.
Hey.
Um, yeah, it is. I completely get what you mean. It's that feeling like you're not good enough, and you deserve it. Yeah, and it is crazy now that we're both weller people that we're able to be kinder to ourselves. I think that's the hardest thing when you're suffering with a mental health condition is, we always say be kind, but we never look at ourselves in the mirror and actively be kind to ourselves. It's almost the opposite. We're our own worst critic, right?
Yeah, I mean it's hard to do consciously,
Yeah.
be kind to yourself. And if you can, you might have to do it consciously for it in order for it to become an unconscious process.
Yeah.
So in my recent, because I've recently completed a round of CBT just a couple of months ago, after things got pretty bad again around summer last year, and that was actually a main point of contention. It was the idea of, you know, instead of dwelling on sort of negative thought processes, challenging those and seeing what the positive is out of them or what that says about me. And also just, keeping my diary and just writing, even if they are the most mundane thing in the world, just positive things that happened or positive things I've done for people or for myself. And then it kind of just becomes a bit more instinctive to do
Yeah.
so. Um,
It
and
takes weeks to form a habit, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And also, as we'll probably come on to a bit later, like talking to other people, not only people who don't deal with mental health, but I find especially people who do, because there sometimes is a thought process that if someone else is suffering or struggling, you don't want to burden them by your own stuff. But in fact, opening those gateways for communication really helps both parties. And some friends of mine who really struggle, but we won't have spoken since like secondary school, but just sort of one evening, a quiet evening at the pub or something, we'll kind of just realize that, and then we end up going for coffees and having long phone conversations, and just you know the advice that you think is hard to live by, you're saying it to this other person and realizing that you have been doing it, and it's really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So take me back a little bit to, a bad day for you. What does that look like for you? Like if you I mean, I'm sure it's not that distant a memory. What does a bad day kind of feel like when you're in that dark fog?
Well, a day that I would, I luckily they are fewer and far between at the moment, but there's still parts of it that happen. But they would be what I refer to as write-off days. So a day where, as you've mentioned before, where getting out of bed is a chore, and an unhealthy part of that, especially if I wouldn't have to go to work, if it was like a day off or something, I would stay in bed way, way too late, but be completely awake. And in that moment, I am catastrophizing, I'm overthinking, I'm dwelling on all these things. I'm dwelling on the time I'm losing, but also aware that I can't face actually getting up, and it's a real downward spiral.
Yeah.
Um, and then or if I do have to get up and do something, my stomach will be in knots throughout the whole day. It wouldn't be uncommon for me to sort of be dry heaving in the morning and sometimes even throwing up, just out of trying to kind of get whatever is causing this out. But it's a mental thing, and that it's not going to go.
Yeah.
Um, and also because of that sort of tension and anxiety and hopelessness, just always sort of on the verge of tears,
Yeah.
which is, it's not that, people would make fun of me for that, but it's still an inherently embarrassing thing to kind of feel like you are so easily triggered any second of the day. Um, so it's that kind of, so physically that's going on. And mentally it's just every little thing that that you need to kind of keep yourself busy, but any little thing that comes in, um, just is a nightmare. It just seems completely impossible. And I will also be worrying about things either out of my control or far enough in the future that there's no good thing that can come of worrying about it.
Yeah.
Like the difference between being mindful or proactive about things you need to do and
Yeah.
just worrying about stuff. It's like you can't you can't solve a situation you're worried about while you're in the shower,
No.
for example, you know? And so it's kind of, so in these write-off days, it would really just be very unwillingly sacrificing myself to these emotions and to this physical anguish. And to the point where sometimes it's also a fear of kind of being outside. as
Yeah.
well. Like just even little things like a minor misunderstanding on the street, if not holding a door open for someone, it's just something that most people might just forget about instantly. That will just add on to the load of fear and anxiety that I'll be dealing with all day. And when I was lucky, that might just last a day, but when not so lucky, it could be a couple of days, up to a week, up to a couple of weeks. It's it's a very, very strange thing because you can be aware of what is happening, but you feel completely powerless to it.
Mm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So obviously you've just completed recently a round of CBT. Did that help you kind of differentiate what your triggers were? What situations you found kind of brought on those bad days?
It did, in terms of unhealthy behaviors of mine. So the type of food that I'd be eating, drinking too much or drinking alone,
Mm,
a huge thing. Um, Also, in terms of work stress, would be like a trigger for me, but it was about identifying these triggers and not, you can control the things you can control, like drinking too much or getting more exercise, that kind of thing. That's all well and good, but the other things that are more external, say like work stress, it's more about controlling my attitude to them
yeah.
and the way that I communicate these problems. If I felt like I was overwhelmed, I'd either be able to kind of quite pragmatically unpack
Mm,
each thing that I might be overwhelmed by and see what I can do about that,
mm.
or again open up communication and just speak to someone at work. And last summer that was you, and I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, but yeah, no, in terms of the CBT, it was just identifying certain triggers, and also just kind of thinking about and challenging thought processes as
Yeah,
well, main thing, and establishing sort of new rules. Like if I had an example, could be, and this is probably quite work related, but I think it
yeah,
goes with that, would be if like a rule that could be good but has been distorted to be negative is, I don't want to make mistakes.
mm,
So you can think of the good version of that is, if I make a mistake, I'll learn from that and, I won't do it again. The
mm,
bad version of that is being afraid to make any mistake at all
yeah.
and feeling like it reflects badly on you, which it doesn't. We're human.
CBT is effectively brain training, right? Like I've done a round of CBT before, and like it is literally like breaking down communication to yourself. Like it,
Yeah,
it
almost adding a bit of border control, a bit of
yeah,
border control in thoughts.
yeah, like for your brain. little,
Yeah,
little man or woman with a little cap on, checking all
exactly.
the sentences coming
Yeah,
through. Yeah,
like,
no, it is crazy. So on the flip side of the bad days, what do you find helps you to keep calm or clear-headed on kind of days where maybe you're having a good day, but that dark, I always call it a dark cloud, is kind of coming back in? What kind of tools and techniques have you learned to readjust yourself, so to speak?
well, so your choice of words is dark cloud, which I definitely know what you mean. I say, the bad guys are winning, because
Oh,
I think of it as like, there are, if it is not literally voices in my head, but it's a voice that
no, but
is,
I get that. Yeah.
winning. So for me, a day where that's things I do to kind of fight off the bad guys. Um, I mean, well, one of them, and it's so obvious. It's definitely exercise. Exercise does a huge amount for me, even if it's just a little bit of just some planking in the bathroom in the morning, just to kind of you know slow the brain down just a bit and just be a bit more in the moment. Because I don't know about you, but for me, when the moment I check my phone,
Mm,
in the morning, I will suddenly think I need to do everything right now, because I'm online, my brain should be online, and but it doesn't have to be like that. No one's expecting anything to happen the moment I've woken up. So just take that moment.
mm.
So it's exercise like that. Reading has become a huge, because I studied English at university, and it kind of killed my love of reading
Yeah,
because
I
you
can
don't really
imagine.
yes, you don't really get to read out of leisure so much because it's just constant, and you're kind of reading stuff because you should, it's on the syllabus. Where
Yeah,
I have now kind of got a little routine of when I come home every day, I will read for about an hour.
that's
And
nice.
yeah, I mean, if I can, and I mean, one other thing to mention is these are all good things to do, but if there's a day that you can't do them, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It
It's not
doesn't,
a schedule, it's a tool.
yeah,
You pick it up
exactly.
when you need it. Yeah.
And but I do it whether I do or don't need it, but I figure out that it really does sort of focus my brain because, in modern life we are so screen heavy. Like we're looking at our phone. I mean, we're talking over Zoom right now, or at work we'll be constantly looking at screens. And then I'll go home, and because I love films or TV, I'll watch films or TV whilst maybe checking my phone and maybe have my laptop open.
Yeah.
This is not a healthy thing. So to sit down and read or play my guitar or something that has nothing to do with a screen. It's me engaging with either an instrument or written word in a way that it's not something I have to action. It's not an email that I need to respond to. It's just someone's,
Pleasure.
yes, exactly, or someone's stream of consciousness that I'm engaging with.
Mm.
So there's that. And also cooking helps me a lot.
Okay. Is it
I'm not
because
good
of
at
like the process of cooking, like you're concentrating on like following the steps, or do you just freehand it and hope for the best?
a bit of both, but the well, my girlfriend is a pastry chef, so that is quite helpful. But I think for me, when either we're cooking together or I've sort of been inspired by some of her recipes or something, for me, cooking is if you feel like you're out of control the whole day, or you aren't in control of your feelings, whether it's following a recipe or just bringing something together, that's why there's the phrase is the proof is in the pudding. Like you've
Yeah.
literally got this thing that you've made and you started something and finished it and there it is. It might be tasting terrible. It might, you know,
It's a
it might,
risky game we like to play.
but it's a healthy thing to do and it's a mindful thing to do. And I can do that while sort of listening to music or a podcast or something. And it's, I mean, all of these things are basically just trying to um engage with a positive rule that I made, which is my free time is exactly that.
Yeah.
Like, because another unhealthy thought I would have is that because I have certain ambitions, I felt that any time I wasn't either working or doing that, I was wasting time. Um, and I wasn't engaging with what I really want to do. But that kind of means that you get stuck and you feel kind of trapped. But to engage in these other things that are just your me time, where do whatever your body tells you want, says you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure about that, then just sit quietly, just for a little bit. No phones, maybe flight mode if easier. Um, then I will kind of just that's when maybe ideas will start coming for writing or music or anything like that. And if they don't, that's fine. No
Yeah.
one's expecting anything of me except for me in
Yeah.
that scenario.
Yeah, I think like we're both very creative people and I definitely suffer with that. Like if I'm not doing something to like improve the business or work on content, like I feel like I'm wasting time, like especially at the moment, like my full-time job is content creation, so like anytime I do anything my camera comes with me. And my boyfriend is a bit like, are you really going to film you just eating a banana? And I was like, maybe, yeah, I'll think about it. Then I realized it'd be inappropriate
Yeah.
and I stopped filming the banana. But yeah, I think, I mean, when I was in therapy we worked a lot on the inner child and kind of learning about what makes you tick, what makes you actually happy. It doesn't necessarily have to be something like you say that is going to move mountains, is going to make you money. It can just be an hour activity that you just enjoy. You're allowed to do things just for pleasure. There doesn't have to be an ulterior motive. And I think that's very hard, especially like when you're in your 20s. You feel you're under so much pressure. Well, I hope you agree, that you have to be doing things, you have to be ticking these milestones. And who is telling you that? Like, it's no one. Like my mum really doesn't care whether I come home and I'm a millionaire or I come home and I remembered to get the milk that week. But
Yeah,
we just have this thing in our brain that says you've always got to be chasing, you've always got to be doing better, that we don't give ourselves time to even slow down. That's not in the schedule, that's not in the 5-year plan.
yeah. I mean, and also our our growth into adulthood with social media has made a huge impact on that, because you can in Instagram can be fantastic for connecting with people and being inspired by things, or just turning your brain off to look at something funny, or you've sent me some great inspirational things on Instagram. So it definitely has a really good place in this world. But the flip side to that is you can feel unfairly competitive with what other people are doing. And the main thing to remember is no one is sharing the boring moments of their life.
No,
If
never.
there's someone that I know that seems to be traveling all the time, and I'm like, wow, what an amazing life, or they're making films, or seemingly their dreams are just coming true left, right, and center. And but the main point being is that they are not sharing the days that where they've had a hungover Sunday and sat around watching movies all day, or even if or like from a mental health perspective, they're not going to be sharing a photo. I mean, if they did, it would be incredibly brave, but most people generally don't sort of share photos of them harming themselves or anything like
Yeah,
that. So the spectrum of what you're seeing on there is exactly that. It's you're only seeing the good things that they
yeah,
are posting. And for if you are a creative, that can be intimidating, but it's important to kind of make that distinction that, well, I'm not going to do an Instagram story of me on the toilet, because that's not going to add anything to the world. But everybody poops.
yeah.
you know
Everybody coops. Yeah, I think like when I first started on social media, it was just like, like as a kid, your mum would print off photos and put them in a book and you'd look through them. Like
Mhm.
that's what I thought social media was originally, like just an online photo book, basically, and very quickly it became a place to brag. It became a place to, obviously it's a massive advertising tool. So,
Yeah.
the original purpose, I think, was a lot more innocent than what it has now kind of grown into. And I completely agree, there's good and bad of all social media platforms. I am a slave to social media. I love it, but I'm also aware that, you wouldn't print off a photo unless you really liked it and put it in an album. And it's the same difference on Instagram. You're not going to put that photo up because once it's on the internet, it lives forever. It's not like when we could print off a photo and if we didn't like it, just rip it up and then it's gone forever. If you go through all my childhood photo albums, my mum can point out things that happened before and after the photo was taken. And half the time, especially if we're like toddlers, it's just chaos. They got one snippet moment in time that was good, but that was out of 24 hours that were crazy, and I think you're completely right. It's so easy, and I think especially when you're fighting off the bad guys, to compare and to overanalyze and to think, why don't I have that? But do they even have that? Is that just a really good angle and really good lighting? And with Photoshop and everything else, are they actually at the Taj Mahal or are they at home?
Well, but it also begs the question of, okay, so what if their life is that amazing? Why does that have anything to do with mine
Yeah,
and how I view mine? In the sense that, okay, so if it is someone who is, you know, globe trotting, or like, doing amazing things, I'm like, well, that's their path.
yeah,
I'm on mine, and mine isn't going to be made any better by negatively comparing or worrying
yeah.
about where I am at this moment. And because of these sort of things that I've been doing, that I would recommend in terms of calming your mind down,
Mm,
I had a moment when I was reading just the other night, and I just like and I was listening, had some music on in the background, and a really lovely song came on, and I was reading, and I just looked up and just said out loud, life is pretty beautiful. And then just went back to reading. I must have looked like an absolute freak. There was no one in at my flat. It was fine. But
yeah,
sometimes for me, it is helpful to actually vocally express, even if there's no one else there,
yeah,
um, what's going on. And in terms of challenging the bad guys, like, thoughts that of low self worth, or really quite nasty indictments of my personality going on internally, I might be walking down the stairs at work and just going, no, I'm not. If the
yeah.
voice is saying, "Oh, you're an absolute piece of whatever, and you're the worst thing ever," I'll just say to myself, "No, I'm not," and just sort of, again, I must look like an insane person, but whatever helps. Every little helps.
Yeah, I get that. So I'm conscious of time, so I know you've got to head off. So I've got two more questions. First question is, what do you wish you could tell your younger self?
I mean, it's a very good question. Because I still feel like I still feel like a scared little boy sometimes. I don't know if I can make a distinction between my current self and my younger self. All I would say is that um, this is just a bad moment.
Mm.
It's just a bad moment. Um, Tomorrow can and will be better if you want it to. If it's not going to be, it's not going to define you forever. Basically, it's like, I think the main thing is it's just a bad moment, or it's just a moment, and that can be a good thing as well. Like, this is a good moment. Savor those
Yeah.
bad moments, acknowledge that they are bad, and just try and move on without it, informing your whole view of the world.
Mm. Okay, and on the flip side of that, what would you like to tell your future self?
Hmm. Um, you're welcome. No. um, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, I this sounds really lame, but I'd probably just say something like, "Hey, we made it. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was worth it."
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so, so much for giving up your time today. I feel like this is going to be such a good video for those to kind of listen into and watch. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty. I know it's really tough to kind of get honest, as we've all struggled for years. But I really appreciate you taking the time. It's definitely, made me feel a bit more human as well. So I just want to say a massive thank you, and hopefully we can do a little meet up in person soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really
Well,
appreciate.
also thank you so much to you as well, because your Instagram and your YouTube, but also when we were working together, you were such a huge help on just sort of letting me recognize what I needed to do, and the ways for me to do it. So a huge thank you to you.
Thank you. So that was my catch up with Joe. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you got something from this video. Please don't forget to like, comment below and subscribe so that you never miss a video. I'll see you guys soon.